Okay, it's July 11th, 2024. I'm with John J. Jeckovich, World War II veteran, and we're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons, and we're on chapter 9, which is titled Crossing the Channel. This is on the way to the Battle of Bulge. And I noticed, Mr. Jeckovich, you had 100 plus V-mails, and they cannot be located, they're gone.
Yeah.
Could you sum up what the V-mails would say as best your recollection?
Don't tell my mother what to do, how to do with the furnace. You take the things out of the bottom of the furnace. Who's stuffing the snow outside? How do you make it out to work? Because she walked to work.
So it's keeping your mom abreast on how to take care of things when you're gone.
Yeah.
Did your mother write you back? Did your mother write you back?
No.
Did your sister write you back?
No.
Do you think they could have wrote you a letter but it never got to you?
No, they didn't write. They didn't write.
I see. But you sent over 150.
Yeah, I wrote every day.
See, a lot of people don't understand V-mails are basically what we have today is like snail mail, like sending a letter through the post office. Today we have emails, which there was no such thing during the 40s. There wasn't any. So you would write a V-mail, and that's how they were titled, and they would go into a distribution center for the U.S. Army. Then the Army would censor each and every letter.
Yeah, but they would reduce that V-mail to a small size and get tons of those things and send them out.
Microfilm.
Yeah, and then they would deliver it to your mother and Sally.
Yeah.
Okay. On some type of half a sheet of paper, probably.
What?
Was the V-mail look like about a half a sheet of paper?
No, the V-mail would be in an envelope. Official envelope. It said U.S. Army. Right?
Delivered by the post office.
Delivered by the post office. It was delivered to the post office, and then they delivered to my mother.
And then your mother would be delivered to 3063 Orleans Avenue, and your mother saved each and every one of them.
She did, yeah. Well, she put them in that trunk.
What else was in that trunk?
But stuff my mother's owned. I had some stuff in there. Some stuff from school, some stuff from writings and that.
And were all of it missing?
Huh?
Was it all missing?
Yeah, it was all, yeah. He just destroyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. But I did locate some V-mails that other infantrymen wrote home. And here's one of them. May 28th, 1944. Dear Mitchell, I just finished writing you a V-mail, but it seems I had something else to say. So I attempted this airmail. I haven't had a chance to write you for the past 4 or 5 days. As I told you in the V-mail, I had seen some action, a few hard days in which I saw more than I imagined I ever would. I don't think any man can exactly explain combat. It's beyond words. Take a combination of fear, anger, hunger, thirst, exhaustion, disgust, loneliness, homesickness, and wrap it up all in one reaction, and you might approach the feelings a fellow has. Is that a good definition of combat?
My definition?
Is that a good summation of what combat would be? Take a combination of fear, anger, hunger, thirst, exhaustion, disgust, loneliness, homesickness.
Well, you wouldn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And
You're just a cog in the wheel, that's all.
And wrap it up in all one reaction might approach the feelings a fellow has. It makes you feel mighty small, helpless and alone. It's a comfort to know there is no one is present at times and anywhere ready to help you. Though my faith in God has been steadily growing stronger all along. Without faith, I don't see how anyone could stand this. It all seems so useless. But I realize the Germans must be stopped. But they will rise again for peace and will be settled by men who have never known combat, and naturally they hold no bitterness nor dread of another war, for they don't know this war could have been avoided. I thought I had been tired before in my life, but nothing like this. But still you can and do go on. Every time you stop, you dig a hole, which has saved many lives. The ground is so hard. There we go. The ground is so hard. And the ground is so hard to dig a trench. It's so hard, and digging is very hard. You don't want to get so very hungry, but thirst drives you crazy. I have drunk water with everything in it and liked it. You have no energy, but still go on. The battle seems something like a faraway land, and everything seems sad, lonely, and dark. The roar is even as bad as the movies had it. The cries of the wounded are pitiful. They seem so helpless. The dead seem forsaken, but they're out of it all, as in the Masonic textbook. The gentle breeze fans their verdant covering. They heed it not. Sunshine and storm pass over them. They are neither delighted nor disturbed. So it is this battle. The things rage on all around them, but they are still in quiet. You wanted to know how I felt about how I saw action.
You're reading from that other book, right?
From a V-mail. From a mail.
Yeah.
You know how I felt after I saw action, and I have told you all that I will pass. I told you all I can that pass the censors. I imagine all new men feel about the same, and I know old men feel differently. So will I. But that's for now. Love, Paul. So he says a lot of this stuff that he put in his V-mail, the recipient couldn't read because of the censors. The censors will pick a lot out and condense it. Okay, here we go. Jean stopped and turned toward me, reached up and quietly kissed me gently on the cheek, and asked, I felt terribly that she wanted to say more, but settled for saying, we shall all miss you terribly, and we got quite attached to you. I took her arm and kissed her. We stood in the clear moonlight night, and I told her I would write and give her my address as soon as I could. We held one another, trying vainly to hold back the ticking time clock and prevent it from bringing us closer to our destiny. The next morning, Saturday, we marched by the platoon to the makeshift dispensary for a series of shots. After chow, I could still feel the shot in my derriere, and several men, along with Lape, were sick as a result of the shots. I was called to the orderly room, which was always menacing. It seemed like Sergeant Whalen wanted my thoughts on accepting more responsibility, such as a squad leader. Now, you were supposed to get your sergeant stripes another about the third time.
Never got it.
One went past you 3 times.
Yeah.
Such as
They had the stripes for the people in the rear echelon.
the stripes were the ones that were connected and never seen war.
Yeah.
In the event I was called upon you to do this, he explained to me that he was compiling a list of potential squad leaders as He explained to me that he was compiling a list of potential squad leaders as well as section leaders and platoon leaders. That night, my name was mentioned. I said that I accept the added responsibility and had no qualms about not doing a job. Good job. He said that was fine and thanked me for my cooperation, then dismissed me. That afternoon when I met with Gene, I was still mulling over my meeting with Sergeant Whalen. The conclusion I came with away only meant one thing: casualties. They were concerned about the fact that we would be entering combat shortly, and the very aspect was imminent and impending. It did not particularly cause me much concern, the fact that casualties, personnel, or otherwise, it did not enter in my conscious state. I did not think of anything would ever happen to me. So you thought during the whole war, you were to come out of it from beginning to end.
Well,
That's how you thought, right?
well, that's how everybody thought. They might get killed. They didn't want to get killed, Dave.
But you said earlier in this book that you knew you were to come out of this thing.
You know what?
You said earlier in this book, several chapters ago, that you knew you weren't going to be killed. You got wounded a couple times, but you said you were confident that you were going home.
No, yeah, I didn't think I'd get killed, no.
Probably the prayers of your mother saved your life. The sight of Jean diverted me away from my thoughts, and I focused instead on how attractive she looked.
Hello.
Hello. She appeared stunning and captivating, and I immediately relayed those observations to her. She was pleased and thanked me, and I could see that she was delighted that she made such an impression on me. As she mounted her bicycle, I was afforded the luxury of the sight of a pair of beautiful legs. We headed south from Haverfordwest on Highway A4076. The term highway was misleading since it was really the highway consisted of two-lane buggy trail, barely wide enough for an Army 2.5 ton. So their highways were nothing like what we know of.
No.
Were they just dirt, or were they like cement?
Well, some of them were cobblestone, some of them were that tar on top, and some were just rolls that they bagged in when they went over it. Instead of bulldozer, they chop it up.
As we rode, Gene informed me they were going to Milford Haven. That is, if I can make it there. Milford Haven was a port when we arrived into Wales. As it was dark, then we disembarked, and we did not see much of the city. It was considerably smaller than Haverfordwest, and was chiefly noted for its fine natural harbors. It was founded by the Quakers, used as a whaling port, and the town itself laid out in grid fashion, with streets parallel to one another. From any vantage point in Milford Haven, you could get a marvelous and breathtaking view of the sea. I was much surprised when Jean began to name the various birds flying in and out of the coastal area. I would ask her what one particular bird was as it glided by, and she would remark, "Oh, that's a spotted redshank," or "That's a green sandpiper," or "Did you see that one? It's a spoonbill." Once she became excited and exclaimed, "Oh, look there, there's an osprey," which are very rare and you don't see them often. The entire area was a walker's paradise with its 186 miles of coastal area. And footpaths, which afforded much wonderful scenery among some of its more treacherous paths. You remember that?
Right.
The footpaths and the beautiful areas in Milford Haven?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful area, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was scenic, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it still is today. Wow.
Probably still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Mail call. Mail call, Mr. Jeckovich.
Mail call.
Here comes some V-mails headed your way.
I opened it.
Mail call, Mr. Jeckovich. Is that a letter from the government? They're taking you back?
No.
What is this?
I don't know. Hold it up. Let me see. What is it?
They want you to donate money.
Who
Huh?
is?
It's something with the oceans. It's a nonprofit organization.
Let them take a look at it. We'll sit back and we'll watch them read it.
It's a calendar.
Oh, you got a calendar. That's great. You can always use more calendars.
Yeah, real small, real small.
2025 calendar.
Save the ocean every day. And then they're going to send me a puzzle.
14.
Take your time and look it over, Mr. Jeckovich.
Here, that's it. Here. Put that back
I'll
in
look at it
there.
later. Want me to continue reading, or do you want to read a few
Go ahead,
chapters?
go ahead.
Do you want to read a few chapters of your book?
Huh?
Do you want to read a few chapters?
No, go ahead. Read.
Jean remarked that she would bicycle here many times in the summer, which explained her acute familiarity with the area. She said that she spent the entire day walking the coastal paths, just enjoying the scenery and the solace and the tranquility of the entire area. So Jean, with all her walking and her many miles of daily bike riding, she was in pretty good shape.
Oh, yeah, well, they didn't have cars.
Yeah, she was in damn good shape.
That was the religion. You walk or you don't go.
So, she sounds like she's in excellent shape. It took us 3 to 4 hours to traverse the 15 to 18 miles to Milford Haven on a rather casual, unhurried jaunt. The temperature was a cool 40 to 45 degrees, but there was a moderate southwesterly breeze coming off the sea, which made it feel cooler. Jean had brought along a sweater and put it on during the first break. I could not help noticing what an attractive figure she presented. She must have guessed what I was thinking, for she turned toward me and squinted her nose up in a manner that as she got on her bike. After reaching Milford Haven, we walked our bikes to cool down, and Jean pointed out the places of interest. She indicated the more prominent ones: St. Catherine's Church. Do you know if St. Catherine's Church was Catholic?
Yeah.
Was it Catholic?
Rudolph, yeah, it doesn't sound it, does it?
No, the Friends Meeting House and the many floral gardens throughout the town. She asked me if I was getting hungry, and I nodded in affirmation. She only smiled and proceeded to continue giving me the cook's tour of the town. Finally, we stopped, and I could see directly to our front what appeared to be a former farmhouse. The sign on the entrance, printed in bold, printed in bold. The sign over the entrance, printed in bold, English-style lettering, stated this was the Sir Benford Family Inn. Do you remember the Sir Benford Family Inn?
Yeah, that was a restaurant owned by a family, yeah.
Okay. What do you remember about it?
Huh?
Is there anything special you remember about it?
Well, it was clean and neat. It was clean and neat. They haven't noted about it or nothing. Food was good. They cleaned, everything was clean.
That was in Milford Haven, right?
Yeah.
As we entered, I could see that it was just a former farmhouse, ideally transformed into a comfortable, relaxing country inn. The several dining rooms were tastefully refurbished, with large wooden beams in the ceiling, and a great deal of cypress paneling throughout each room. There was a roaring fire in the fireplace. There was a roaring fire in each of the huge fireplaces. Their large stone mantels displayed many photographs of people who were once important to this town. The meal was first rate. Boy, you got a great memory. Then you got a damn good memory.
Oh.
You got a damn good memory.
Right.
I asked you the question that I read down and you had it right on. Damn good memory. The meal was first rate with heavy emphasis placed on fish, which was only natural being close to the sea. The view from the table looking out of our huge picture windows was magical, as afforded us a complete panoramic view of the coastline and the large ocean-going vessels in the harbor. I also saw several troop ships and their dull grayish hue anchored away out waiting their turn to unload their human cargo. That's the troop ships that you came on.
Yeah.
You landed in Milford Haven.
Yeah.
How would you ever know that a couple months later you'd be in this beautiful restaurant with a beautiful young lady overlooking the ocean,
Yeah, well,
overlooking.
never dawned on you. Never dawned on you.
It's like you won the lottery. When the server wheeled in the pastry wagon to our table, I was amazed at the selection presented and wanted to sample each and every one of the appetizing and dainty morsels. We enjoyed the atmosphere and the outstanding scenery as we sat there peering out the large picture windows. Jean looked at me and said, "You'll be leaving shortly, won't you?" At first I said nothing, but took another bite of my crisp, delicate pastry that was on the pastry tray. I looked out at the sea as it churned and fomented against the shoreline, and the large troop ships. I thought of the time I came into this city only a few short weeks ago, thinking of only Anne and how I could get back to her safely. I turned to Jean and repeated what I had said several days ago. The advance party had left for the continent several days ago, and it was only a matter of time before we would be gone also. There would be no advisory, no time to say goodbye. We would be restricted. In a short time, we would be gone. She murmured, "What a cruel and inhuman way to depart, not even giving you consideration of saying goodbye." Well, that's the Army, right?
That's the Army, yeah.
That's the Army. They tell you to
So
go.
long, Casino, see you around. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
They're not going to. So that's the Army, huh, Mr. Jeckovich?
Huh?
Like Ann said, what a cruel and inhuman way to depart, not even giving you consideration of saying goodbye. And you said that's the Army, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Not going to change it.
That's the best way to go.
Here we go. I retorted, that's the Army's way of doing things, and it was mainly for security.
Yeah.
As I stated these words, I fully well aware that the enemy intelligence was aware of our movement and a great deal more. So you really didn't know where you're going exactly.
What?
You didn't really know exactly where you're going.
No, how would I know?
No.
Everything's a big secret.
I whispered that it was getting late and we had several hours of riding to do it. She smiled and said she would be only a minute to freshen up a bit. I nodded and smiled as she departed. As I sat there waiting for Jean's return, I thought how much I'd miss all of this. Visits each morning, the talks we have, the romantic interludes, and how I looked.
That's all coming to screeching home.
The romantic interludes, and how I look forward to seeing her and anticipating how she'd look, and finally her loving parents. So he says it's coming to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
I'll be damned. I settled up with the server and gave her a generous gratuity, as she was considerate and efficient. Jean came back in short order. As she walked towards me, I was struck by her graciousness and her loveliness. The thought raced through my mind that there were available rooms upstairs. I wonder how she would react if I approached her.
What, rooms upstairs?
I approached her regarding the feasibility of the idea. The ride back seemed much faster than slow, meandering we had experienced coming down. It was almost dark when they reached the town limits. Jean wanted to go straight to the cottage rather than spend time at the dance that was in progress at the auditorium. Then the ride back seemed much faster than slowing, meandering we had experienced coming down. It was almost dark when we reached the town limits. Jean wanted to go straight up to the cottage rather than spend some time at the dance that was in progress at the auditorium. Minutes?
3, almost 4.
As we reached the front gate, I started to open it for her. She hesitated momentarily and whispered ever so softly, "Let's walk over to our favorite spot, the benches overlooking the town." I agreed and put my arm around her waist and kissed her on the cheek as we made our way towards the benches. We sat there listening to heavy bombers as they came overhead, then faded into silence as they reached the channel. Jean sat close to me with her head buried in my shoulder, and the scent of her perfume reminded me of other occasions, thousands of miles away in another world. "What were you thinking back there at the inn just before we left?" she asked as she fingered the zipper on my field jacket. I pretended that I did not understand, but reluctantly said I wanted to take her upstairs, but then thought better of it. Minutes?
2.
I was waiting for a reply from her as I was curious about her reaction, but she said nothing. I tipped her head and kissed her. Then she put her arms around my neck and whispered, "I would have gone with you."
And then what?
I would have gone with you. I was flabbergasted at her revelation and utterance. I drew apart and looked at her. "Say that again," I blurted out as she once again snuggled into my chest. "You didn't ask, so I'm not repeating. You didn't ask, so I'm not repeating myself." With that, she reached up and kissed me. It was then I realized I hid my true feelings about Jean from myself, but some strange mystical force had no difficulty in transferring my true feelings to her. With that, she jumped up and began running to the old cottage.
1 minute, 30 seconds.
Oh, the movie must be over.
Yeah. Shouting over her shoulder, "Let's have some tea. I'm chilled and cold." I followed her into the parlor where the Youngs were sitting and reading, half dozing off. Jean mentioned to her mother and said she would make some tea before I left. Mr. Young was half asleep, as well as embarrassed, having been caught napping. I found it amusement and very homey. He apologized and made an attempt of some sort of conversation with Mrs. Young, saying a few words.
Night.
Good night. Jean brought the tea tray
40 seconds.
in the parlor, served each of us, then sat beside me. She knew her parents were attempting to be talkative and relaxed, but they were not having much success. The hour was late, and they were caught off balance with a steady nightly guest in the house. I did not blame them one bit for their discomfort and the invasion of their privacy. I realized that it was probably for the best that we were leaving shortly. Okay, let's hold up right here. I'll pick up a little bit. Let me take a break.
It's